With the 5-year anniversary of Avengers Endgame coming up, gotta mold. One of the most popular topics during Endgame's time was crossovers. What would different characters from non-Marvel movies be like if this snap were to happen to them? It was mostly done for Smash Brothers, by the way. So today, in celebration of the 5-year anniversary of Avengers Endgame, I am gonna do that myself. Funny enough, the Russo brothers did the same thing, so I'm gonna take a little bit out of their book, but not too much. And plus, I don't agree with everything they did, so yeah, link to the video in the description. Starting off, we have the second most popular team in Marvel Comics, that being the X-Men. Now, the X-Men are an interesting scenario, because not just the X-Men, but the mutant genre as a whole, or subgenre, whatever you want to call it, is pretty big. So for the X-Men, I am going to keep what I call the main three alive. The main three being Cyclops, Wolverine, and Storm. Cyclops and Storm are basically leaders, and Wolverine is the mascot of the X-Men, so it makes sense. I would also keep Havoc and Polaris alive, not just because Havoc is Cyclops' brother, but it's also because they're both a couple, and they're the leaders of X-Factor, so I definitely think a scenario like this could work with both of them. So here's the full roster right here. I would keep Banshee alive, because he's pretty unique, and I would keep Sunfire alive, because keep in mind, Sunfire is basically Captain Japan, so I definitely think he would play well in a scenario like this. Smash Brothers. Now, Smash Brothers has a really huge roster, and naming out all of them would take forever and take a lot in the writing process, and this video has to be uploaded by tomorrow. So I'll start off with the roster of Smash 64, and with the magic of Photoshop, I'm just gonna name everyone I would have survive. Starting off with Smash 64, you see we have Luigi right there, because Luigi's always a punching bag. Ness, because, I mean, yeah, it's Ness. Who wouldn't have him not survive? Fox, we'll get into Fox in a bit. Pikachu, a little bit makes sense. Jigglypuff I had survive because it's pretty unique. Mario, Donkey Kong, Link, Samus, and Kirby are basically main characters. Captain Falcon is cool. And Yoshi I also kind of think is unique. And here's the rest of the survivors. I chose the two Belmonts because the snap is very random, keep that in mind. I chose Sora because I definitely think he would work well in a scenario like this. Mewtwo because he's the basically the legendary Pokemon mascot. I think he would work well. Rob, Mr. Game Watch, and Duck Hunt I also think would be interesting in this scenario. Falco I would keep alive because keeping Falco alive and not Fox is kind of the equivalent to having Rocket alive and not Star-Lord, in my opinion at least. Ryu, he's the main character in Street Fighter. Solid Snake is one of the greatest video game characters of all time. He's the main character of Metal Gear, so it makes sense. Steve, I also think would be interesting in this scenario. Palutena, because she's a goddess. Let's see. Ike and Crom, because Ike is a badass, and Crom is basically a father. Lucas, everyone likes that blonde bastard instead of Ness. Wolf would be interesting, because he's a villain. And like with Fox gone and Falco still alive, Wolf would be interesting. Piranha Plant is just for shits and giggles. Erdrick, because it's just Erdrick. Alf, because he's number 2 to Olimar. And Kazuya, because I think Kazuya would be interesting. Rosalina, you can have as the Captain Marvel this scenario, even though Rosalina is a 10 times better character than Captain Marvel. Luma, I guess that Luma is alive. I also need to mention that Waluigi survived, while Wario was a victim of the snap. Peach survived, and the villains are gone. The Fantastic Four. Who doesn't love the Fantastic Four? I think Johnny and Sue are everyone's first choice to die in the snap. Reed, unfortunately, I would have died in the snap as well because, just like Tony Stark, he's another smartest man alive, and I definitely think losing his smartest man alive would be quite difficult in a scenario like this. The Thing, however, I would keep alive, not only because he's the token rock monster, which makes sense because keeping him alive instead of everyone else is kind of the equivalent to keeping Rocket alive instead of everyone else in the Guardians, but also because he has a dickhead but a nice guy at heart personality that I definitely think could work well in a scenario like this. Now, what is a Marvel crossover without DC? Now, DC, on the other hand, doesn't have as much interesting teams as Marvel does. I've been starting to get into more DC comics as of late because I've always been a Marvel guy. I've been reading a lot of Hawkman as of late. So I think we're gonna have to categorize the entire Justice League. I mean, yeah, there's Teen Titans, but who cares? So here we have the main three, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Those are obvious choices to keep alive. Nightwing, because he's a Robin, and I definitely think that would work in a scenario like this. Alan Scott Green Lantern is the Green Lantern I would keep alive because he's the very first Green Lantern. And I definitely think that would make much more sense than Hal Jordan or Jon Stewart, especially since he's the first. Next up, we have Hawkgirl. Now in the comics, I wouldn't say Hawkgirl is a damsel in distress, but Hawkman does most of the work, and one of my favorite Hawkman comics that I've read so far is the one where he avenges Hawkgirl's death. Sorry for the spoilers, but it's a comic. We all go onto it sooner rather than later. So I see this scenario as a return the favor kind of story. And Peacemaker, of course I would keep Peacemaker alive. He's very popular now. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I know, it took until adulthood, but I think that's good because I just read the Eastman and Lillard's run and I loved it. So out of all the Ninja Turtles, who would I keep alive? The Last Ronin, because that's realistically what everyone would do now. I'm not gonna spoil who it is. I would also keep April and Casey Jones alive. I would also keep Casey Jones and April O'Neil alive, because in a world where half the universe, even 3 out of the 4 Ninja Turtles died, I think they could work well. Mortal Kombat! And since that Mortal Kombat also has a huge roster, I'm gonna have to narrow it down to the arcade era roster. So the first thing you may notice is that I added some characters. Kenshi we'll get into in a bit. Shiva is gone. Johnny Cage and Baraka. The fact that they're not in Mortal Kombat 3 for the Sega Genesis kind of baffles me a bit. But hey, they survive anyway. Rain is gone. Kano's gone. Sector is gone. And Cyrax lives because I think that's an interesting scenario. Katana and Liu Kang are gone because Liu Kang's basically the main character and they're lovers. Kung Lao is gone, because I think that's also interesting. Shang Tsung is gone, Sindel is gone, so we got a couple of bad eggs out of the way. Jade is gone. Sonya survives, we'll get into that in a bit. Stryker, Jax, and Nightwolf survive, because I think that's interesting. Melina also works as a survivor. Ermac is also interesting, Scorpion and Sub-Zero. At least the Kuai Liang Sub-Zero, but Noob is alive, surprisingly. I know, way too many characters, but yeah. I guess we'll say Raiden survived too. But anyway, the reason why I'm keeping Johnny Cage, Sonya, and Jax alive, and including Kenshin in here, is because this is going to lead to the Combat Kids. Ghostbusters! There's something strange in the neighborhood. Everyone's dusting! So I'd say these 3 are out of the picture, Venkman, Ray, and Winston, while Egon is the only survivor. Why? Because he's the smart guy. Now I know, I left Reed Richards dead. All I could say is, gotcha! Transformers! Everyone loves Transformers. I know, that's really bad. So here's all the survivors I have planned. Optimus Prime makes sense, Bumblebee makes sense, Wheeljack a little bit makes sense. RC also makes sense because she's the token female. Everyone likes the token female. Hound I kept alive because it's kind of like Age of Extinction where Hound was one of the only survivors. So I guess include Drift and Crosshairs in that too. Sunstreaker because Sunstreaker is unique. Nobody cares about Sunstreaker. And Prowl because Prowl is interesting in this scenario. By the way, fun fact, that drawing is by Flash Gits.
Yeah, I'm just a black guy. I don't really want to be here.
Yes, you do! You're a minority! Start acting like it!
Jesus Christ, Prowl! What? Like what? I thought we were starting! We're starting, right? We're starting! Yo, fuck you guys! This is bullshit! I could have stayed home today!
G.I. Joe. I am just starting to become a G.I. Joe fan, so yeah. So for the survivors, we have Snake Eyes. Who wouldn't want Snake Eyes to survive? We got Lady J, which makes sense because she's the Sergeant Calhoun from Wreck-It Ralph of G.I. Joe. Roadblock survives because Roadblock's cool. Blowtorch survives because Blowtorch is pretty random. Quick Kick survives. I keep on mistaking his name for Cheap Kick for some reason, I don't know why. But the reason why I had Quick Kick survive is because in the first episode of the cartoon, he was the new kid on the block, so I definitely think it'll be interesting, especially for the snap. Angry Birds? I grew up with Angry Birds. Why not? You really think I'm gonna make all of them survive, or half of them, with the characters I killed off and survived in this video? Alright, all joking aside, I think Terrence, because of his silent personality and his dead face personality from both the cartoon and the movies, can definitely work in this situation like the blip. And Hal, I'm keeping alive because Hal's my favorite because 1, he is green, 2, he has a nice, long, throbbing beak. I mean, yeah, his power is not all that effective, which is probably why he's in none of the cartoons, so yeah. Now, before I end this video, I have a little contest for all of you. Name some character groups in the comments section. The only rule is it has to be over 3 characters. And I can name who I would have survived the snap and who I would have dusted. It doesn't even have to be characters that I like or even know about. Alright, it can be characters that I have no clue about or characters that I hate to my core. I will happily do it just for the sequel to this video. The deadline is a year from now, so start commenting. The deadline is April of 2025, in case you're wondering. Anyway, that's the end of the video, and I'll see you all later. Bye.